name's Michael Chiacos.
Chiacos.
Chiacos. Okay, I'm Italian, so that's why I say it that way. Chiacos, and he is the transportation manager at the Community Environmental Council, and I'm really looking forward to you telling us about the council as well as your job. And he has a BA in Environmental Studies from Lewis and Clark up in Portland. So I'm looking forward to hearing your story, Michael.
Yes. Well, I have a little bit of a wandering path. I grew up here in Santa Barbara and decided I wanted to go away to college somewhere far away. So I went to school up in Portland, Oregon at Lewis and Clark. And it was actually, when I got up there, I was undeclared, but it was the second year that they had started a new environmental studies program. And like you mentioned, I had a lot of different interests, and environmental studies was a way that you could put them all together, but still have a thread that intertwines them all. So in our environmental studies course, I was taking everything from biology to economics. So I really liked that you had this selection of classes that you could take. So I graduated from Lewis and Clark and I actually stuck around in Portland for about a year and a half. And it was during the last recession, 2001. So it was pretty hard. A lot of my friends who graduated, it was hard finding work. People were looking for work in things that were totally unrelated from our field. You know, it was hard to get a job at a bakery. There'd be 50 people applying. But I stuck with it up in Portland, and I landed an internship working for a nonprofit organization called the Climate Trust. And what they did is there's a carbon tax up in Oregon, and they take this money from new power plants and then they put it into carbon offset projects. So basically, we would fund great environmental projects. So it was a really interesting learning experience there. I got hired on from being an intern, and interning is a great way to get your foot in the door. I became a research assistant there, but it was just part-time. I was also working part-time, kind of doing landscaping and gardening on my own, and then I started working for a nursery part-time as well, working with plants. So I'd been doing that for about a year and a half, and really enjoyed my time in Portland. Very fascinating city, very sustainable city. A lot of cool things to learn up there. It gets really depressing in the winter when it's cloudy all the time. It's not raining all the time, but you really start to miss your shadow. And a lot of my friends were underemployed or unemployed, and it was coming up towards winter again, and I had these 2 part-time gigs, and I heard about this job, and it was managing a coffee farm in Hawaii. And I thought, well, it's a small farm. They needed someone with some kind of small business office experience as well as horticulture experience, and I had a biology background. I've been working for a nursery, was working for the nonprofit, doing more admin type stuff. And so I applied for it, and I got the job. So I moved to the Big Island of Hawaii, and I managed a coffee farm for a couple years. And that was a really great interlude in my career, just getting to live up there. It was mostly more of like a management of a small business. So we sold all our coffee direct to customers, and I was responsible for the website, getting the marketing going, getting the kind of business operations figured out. When I got there, inside the house, they had huge piles and piles of coffee everywhere because they'd been harvesting for a few years. It was kind of a new farm, but they weren't really selling any of it. So that was my job, is to figure out how to sell all the coffee. So I was able to do that, and I also, the other part of the job was managing inventory. So taking the parchment, the coffee that had been processed, then having it go through the wet mill process, the dry mill process, having it roasted, and then shipping it out directly to the customers. So that was a really interesting job. I did it for a couple years, and then I decided that the Big Island it's a pretty small rural place, and there's not a lot of going on there, so it was really fun to surf and hike around, but after a while I was getting a little restless. And I'd saved up some money, so actually I went traveling for 8 months in Asia, and went all over the place. I had a really great experience traveling, which is something that I also hope that all of you get the opportunity to do or have in your future. And after my trip, I came back to Santa Barbara, which is where I'm from, and I was thinking about just spending a month here, kind of get my bearings, spend some time with my family, and then move up to the Bay Area or maybe Honolulu and look for a more traditional job working in the environmental sector for an environmental nonprofit. I really liked the work I was doing when I was up in Portland and wanted that to be get along my career path. So I was here in Santa Barbara for a month, and I actually heard about a job through a family friend, and it was just going in, actually out in Isla Vista, and a lot of the apartment buildings all around the South Coast, retrofitting for energy efficient lighting. So I'd never done any of that before, but I started doing that for about a year. And so we just go in and take old light fixtures out, oftentimes from the 60s, and then put in energy efficient lighting. And that was a program that was sponsored through the utilities and California's energy efficiency laws. So I was doing that, but it was kind of just contract work, and then I also started working doing ecotourism, taking people surfing and hiking and kayaking for Santa Barbara Adventure Company, and then another company that goes into wine country. So that was a really fun job, and I was back in Santa Barbara for a couple years, deciding I really liked it here, that I didn't need to move to another big city, that there's enough going on in Santa Barbara that I could be really happy here. So the whole time I was doing this work that was really fun but not as career oriented, I was thinking, what are the organizations that I'd like to work in Santa Barbara? And I heard about one in particular that had a mission that really fascinated me, and this is the organization I work for now, the Community Environmental Council. So we work entirely on clean energy issues, advocacy and policy around everything from renewable energy, sustainable transportation, energy efficiency, and green buildings. And I really saw energy as one of the fundamental challenges that we need to solve as a society. I mean, everything we do is connected to energy and where we get our energy, and climate change is also a really big issue. So I had heard about the CEC, really wanted to work for them, but they weren't hiring. So I was doing my other work, but I had arranged to have a meeting with the energy program director, and met with him and told him all about my background and my interest in the position, and asked him if anything ever pops up, please let me know about this. And every few months I'd have an email exchange with him, send him an interesting article or something, and just stayed in touch a little bit. So about a year and a half later, a few positions did open up, and I was able to get one working on the transportation side. And so I've been at CEC now for 5.5 years. I'm the transportation manager. We work on everything you can imagine in sustainable transportation. So everything from city planning and designing our cities so that we have less sprawling communities, to working on bicycle infrastructure and electric vehicles. That's actually one of my big projects I've been working on. Working on electric vehicles. In the last year or so, we put in 100 public charging stations throughout the Central Coast. We're working on electric vehicle readiness planning with a lot of the cities. So it's a really interesting job. The CEC's been around in the community for 42 years, so we're very well established. We work a lot with local government, businesses, with the public. We put on a lot of events, so we're the ones that put on the big Santa Barbara Earth Day that happens every April. Probably some of you have been there. If you're new to town and haven't been, definitely check it out. There's about 35,000 people that come out over the weekend in April, and I put on a big green car show in the bike world, and you'll see that down there. We do a lot of smaller events too, and we really try to support our local businesses. We've ordered 60 sandwiches from Melissa, a couple different workshops here and there, and it's a really good opportunity to just be part of the community and working on these clean energy issues. Perfect timing.
Yeah. Awesome. I love it. Well, great. That was very interesting, all three of you. And this is all about your questions now, but if you don't have any, I have lots. So go ahead and we'll just open it up, and you can either address the whole group or you can ask a question to a particular person. Break that.
So for most of your jobs, going in, did you feel like you need to really learn this job while you're doing it, or did you feel like you were pretty prepared in schooling and whatnot?
Yes.
That's very kind of scary, intimidated going into a job. And so how do you feel?
Yes, scared and intimidated can be some of the words you would use. I think most of the jobs you're going to have to get trained, particularly if you're going into a professional field or some type, like the types of things that I'm doing with policy and advocacy. There's going to be a real steep learning curve. So really, I think school is really important to help you learn how to think critically and write and communicate, and a lot of the skill set that you're going to learn is actually going to be on the job. So I wouldn't, when you're looking at different possibilities for you out there, I wouldn't stick to what you just know. try to stretch yourself and really think, well, what would I like to learn? What would be my dream field to get into? And get your foot in the door somehow with an internship or maybe some classes that enable you to learn a little bit more about that field. But I think most of what you do, you learn on the job. It sounds like you probably learned a lot on the job. That's where the learning's done.
I have a question also for you, Michael. I'm just curious to know, I've read a little bit on the CEC, but I'm curious to know how broad it actually is. I understand the transportation sector, but what else do you guys do?
Well, our mission, our focus is moving our region away from fossil fuels, so pretty much anything energy related. We also get into climate change and planning as well. So my programs focus on transportation, but we also work a lot on renewable energy. Right now, one of our really exciting programs is it's called Solarize Santa Barbara. It's like a Groupon for solar, so it makes it cheaper and easier to go solar. So a lot of homeowners, last time we ran it, we had 49 people all decide to go solar at the same time. And it made it cheaper as well as easier for them, so they didn't have to go through this whole process with all these contractors. They just knew that these people have been vetted, it's the best price possible, and hey, there's 49 other people going solar at the same time. We also work on green building. We work a lot on government planning as well. That's a big part of what we do. We do a little bit of regional policy work and also state policy work, so working on those state policies that help us get to our energy goals. So yeah, we have our hands in a lot of different places.
And how big is your staff, roughly?
So we're just 9.
Okay.
So staff of 9 full-time.
And then do you take volunteers and interns?
Yes, we do. We have some interns right now. More in the summertime, we usually have interns. We use a lot of volunteers for events. So Earth Day is a great opportunity to do a fun event in the community. We need hundreds of volunteers for Earth Day. That's in April. Then we do other smaller events around the year. So.
Okay, question back there.
How do you get your funding? Where's funding from for
Well, we have a very multiple funding streams, and it's most nonprofits try to be really diversified these days. So we receive a lot of funds from community foundations that believe in the work that we're doing. We get a lot of direct support from donors, individuals. We get a lot of government grants, so a lot of the EV readiness, electric vehicle readiness work that I'm doing is a government grant. I'm actually working on another government grant up here at City College that you all should be interested. Does anyone here live in Isla Vista? 1, 2? So we're working on a RealTime Ridesharing project from Isla Vista to City College. So this enables you to get a carpool just by looking at your phone and pressing a button and tapping into all the people that are driving back and forth in between Ivy and campus. So it's called Smart Ride. You'll be seeing us a lot on campus starting in the next month, and then particularly in the spring. So I hope you'll get involved, but carpooling is really the easiest way to double your gas mileage. So it's a project that we'll be doing here at City College.
Hi.
This is from the list. I've heard about the Goodland kitchen, but where is it at?
The Goodland is in Old Town Goleta. It's right behind the Mercury. And you guys know that bar. If you don't, go see it.
Oh, okay.
So Old Town Goleta.
Yeah, okay.
So it's kind of behind Hollister, sort of.
It is.
Okay.
Which makes really cheap rent.
Good, good. Okay.
Also from Melissa, where do you specifically go, or what's kind of your interaction with the local farmers? Where do you get your products?
Well, I shop at the farmers market every Tuesday, and that's a haul, and it's fun. But it's like me in my little car with like hundreds of pounds of produce going into my little Hyundai Accent. And my interaction with farmers started because I used to be the marketing manager at Fairview Gardens, and they're an organic farm, and I did all their sales and their farmers markets for them. And then through that job and through this, I've met a lot of farmers. And one of the really fun things is when a farmer comes in for lunch and then he says, "Oh, I have 60 pounds of cabbage. Do you want it?" I was like, "Yes, we're making sauerkraut this week." Or whatever, persimmons. Okay, we'll make persimmon bread. And so a lot of people know that we'll take produce, and they just call us that way. And then there's also a great business that was created by this guy named Wesley, and it's called Farmer Direct. And what they do you guys know the Berryman, the blue trucks that are all around town? So a lot of Berryman's food is from Mexico, and you can call them up and say, I need a tomato, and they will deliver 1 tomato to your restaurant. It's amazing. And so Farmer Direct doesn't do 1 tomato, but they will deliver food from local farmers to your restaurant. And so they created that niche for themselves. And that's a new successful business. My housemate actually just got a job with them, created a position for himself with them, just kind of hanging out, and yeah, it's been going well.
How was it finding a location to do a kitchen and like all the permitting and health department stuff? Did your partner know about that kind of stuff already?
Yeah, she had found the space, and when I met her because someone said, oh, I heard someone's putting in a kitchen in Goleta. And I was like, that's what I want to do. So I went and checked it out. It's 1,600 square feet. It's pretty big for a kitchen. You know, most delis are like this big. And then I think I have something else I want to say.
The health department.
Oh yeah, the health department. Oh my God. If I knew what the health department was going to put us through, I'm not sure I would have done it, because there are so many permits. It's just horrible, horrible, horrible. It makes perfect sense why most food is done in huge vats on huge scales by huge plants and not on a small scale by human hands connected to the farmer, because it is insanely expensive and tiring to jump through the hoops. But once you're invested, there's no going back. Yes.
Actually, I have a question. Like everybody here, I'm a little bit confused about environmental studies. I'm interested in recycling and landfill something. So, how do you consider in regards to this field, like recycling, landfills, producing waste, eliminating, reducing waste? I heard something about like electric cars and all this stuff, energy efficient, and so I mean, does it concern the environment, or it's like completely different?
No, that's
so
a huge
how
part.
Could you a little bit clear up for me if you have a chance, please?
Yeah, I want to say one thing.
Yeah.
So I went to the Bren School, which is one of the 3 best schools in the country, I think, for environmental science. And you can study different things, and one of the things you can study is pollution prevention, because it is such a big deal, recycling, landfills, all that stuff. So it's a huge part of environmental science. Do you want to say something?
I'm not quite sure what your angle is, but I'm just going to say from who I work for now, Dudek. We are an environmental planning firm, and we take on that culture of being practicing as many environmental practices we think are sound ourselves in there. So we have all the recycling, I guess, set up as much as you can, as far as taking all our batteries places, or and all the paper, and encouraging people to use the alternative transportation when they can, getting the word out about things programs that are going on with traffic solutions that would benefit.
Well, I have a question for you, Kirstin. Do any of the projects that you work on, do they have a recycling component as part of them, or is that part of the mandates that come from the state? Like when somebody wants to, I don't know, build a shopping center in a certain land, do you have to address that? Like, how are you going to process waste, or how are you? Because I don't know anything about this field. I was just curious.
Probably it is included in the reports that the planners are working on. As far as my end, the GIS and analyzing the land impacts to that, I'm not brought in on that part of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then just to you, I just want to say that your question is great, because one of the things about environmental studies careers is that they are almost in every career. There can be an environmental component to almost any career that you have. And when I talked to Adam Green, who is kind of, I would say, the environmental studies guru on campus, that was exactly what he said to me. So putting together this panel was a challenge, because there are so many different things to choose from.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add to your question, if you're really interested in recycling and waste management, it is a great field to get into in terms of there's a lot of work out there. That's where a lot of the money is. Waste is a big business, and every community has to figure out how to increase the amount of recycling they're doing to deal with their waste in a better and better manner. So it is a really big and growing field to get into. So if you're interested in it, definitely go for it. Another one that we see a lot of jobs in is engineering. So if anyone is into math and science, going into some type of engineering track, there's going to be, there's a lot of jobs out there for engineers, and will be more and more in the future as we get into even more clean technology and kind of the new economy.
I have a question for Melissa. When you were getting, I think you addressed this a little bit, but when you were getting your master's degree from the Friends School, did you imagine that you would be managing a kitchen?
Never. Never. Actually, I had never been turned down from a job by the time I got to grad school. I guess I'm very lucky that way, or I can BS my way through an interview or something. But when I got to grad school, I had a good record. When I was applying to jobs after grad school, I applied to at least 35 jobs, and I got turned down from every single one of them. I did a lot of what Michael did, just like trying to be in contact with local executive directors and being in touch with organizations that I cared about. And I worked with Santa Barbara Adventure Company. I worked for Fairview Gardens, and I did so many things while I was trying to get into a consulting firm like Dudek, actually. And then I was just so hungry and working on this farm, and that's what drove me to open a restaurant. And I had no idea that I would ever do that. I would have given my life to work at a consulting firm.
And how do you feel about that now? Like, how do you feel about your education in relation to what you're doing?
I'm really happy with the decision that I've made in my career path. I think that given that most restaurants go out of business in the first year, and we made it, and we are successful, we're growing, and I am getting, I'm true to my mission about local food, and that's happening on a real scale, and I am thrilled about that. So yeah, that's good.
Good for you.
Did you have any culinary experience at all before?
I am obsessed with food. Yeah, to the max. Like, I go to sleep reading cookbooks and only watch the cooking channel, and I didn't even think about it as a career ever, because I didn't want to be a chef. I'm still not a chef, but one of the really fun parts of my job is people come to me all the time and I say, can you taste this? I'm sitting at my computer and I'm like, oh, it needs more salt, or add cranberries, and it's really fun.
Melissa. So I've done a lot of research as far as food waste, and I feel like people don't use the starving in the world if we're efficient with that. So what does your restaurant do in regards to not wasting food and really trying to use everything? And if there's leftovers, what do you do with that?
The leftovers are given to staff the next day, and if the staff don't want to eat it, they can eat other things, but a lot of staff are on board with that same mission about food waste, and so most of them do. They just heat it up and eat it. And then we didn't have a composting program. We still don't in Goleta. And so my husband built me a huge composting bin, and we take the compost home every day and make soil with it, because otherwise it would just, all this food scraps would go to the landfill. And so I think we do really well with food waste, because a lot of restaurants, the portions are enormous and people don't think about it, and food is so cheap because it's subsidized. And our food is not subsidized, and organic local farmers are not getting subsidies, and so our portions are smaller. To be honest, we sit down and we eat them start to finish and think, am I full? And if you're not, we make it bigger. But that's something that we pay a lot of attention to, portion size.
That's a good question. It's a good answer. It's funny, my husband's Italian, and his family, they never cook more than they're going to eat right then. And it is just, like, the idea of leftovers is kind of bizarre to them, It's interesting. Different cultures have different views on that. I have a question for Kirstin, because a lot of students come in here and they want to do something in the environmental field, and they want to work at consulting agency or at environmental consulting firms, and I'm like, oh, okay, good. And what can you do there? And so I've talked to a couple people, and like Michael was saying, there's a lot of engineering type jobs and more technical jobs. Can you kind of go over what are some of the jobs and career paths at consulting firms?
Sure. So Dudek total has close to 300 people, and about half of that is our environmental division, and half of that is our engineering division. Dudek actually started as a engineering firm specializing in water resources planning. In Santa Barbara, we have a subset office of about 16 now, and we are all environmental. We did have 2 engineers that, due to the economy, couldn't make it here. Our environmental group is very varied. It has, we have 2 cultural resource specialists, so 2 archaeologists. We have 3 biologists, and then there are different specialties, a botanist, and more of a bird guy. We have a couple coastal planners that are specializing in the regulations that you go through the Coastal Commission. We have an agricultural planner, and then we have, right now, we have 4 GIS people working in the office. We have a noise specialist, an acoustician, who goes out with the instruments and is taking noise recordings and then modeling. If you put what where, what will the noise impacts be?
So a lot of
wide variety of,
scientists.
yeah, a lot of scientists, specialties that would go. A lot of them go out into the field, and then my position is actually at a desk all day with my double screen cool maps, and I'm taking in a lot of information, oftentimes from field instruments that they're out there in the field recording what they see, and then I'm putting it on the map, layering it up with the aerials and all the other information I can get in there to make some sort of analysis.
And I'm sorry, I know you said it, but what is your education background?
It was a geography.
Geography, okay.
Yeah, and geography is very broad too. You can go, you can go to the social geography, physical geography, or more the technical end that I did.
And is that what most people who are GIS analysts do? They're geographers of some stripe or another?
I think that's going to change as you see it grow. I think a lot of fields, almost every field, is going to be using some GIS in it. So you could go both ways. You could go specialize and be a biologist and then learn GIS skills to work with that. So there are many people that are just pure GIS, and I work in a variety of fields like I do, but then there's people that are more the resource specialists and use GIS as a tool.
Cool, thanks. Yes?
Actually, these young ladies have their hand up.
Okay.
Later in the session.
All right, go ahead.
I just had a quick question. If you sell the products that they manufacture at your kitchen at the market?
We sell most of them. We have a few standards that we hold to. It either has to be handcrafted or made with local food or sustainably focused or focused on education. Any of those things it has to touch on. If it's like there's a product that has nothing to do with what we do, but
No marshmallows.
marshmallows, yes, handcrafted.
Okay.
Yeah, like made with California blood orange. Good to go. Yeah.
Good ones.
And then I have a question for Michael. You said that you guys are trying to set up something from Ivy to Santa Barbara.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other areas? Because when I used to work at UCSB, we had a carpool list, and it was for Santa Barbara, I think Santa Maria, just because so many people commute from Santa Maria to San Ynez.
So for our project, the RealTime Ridesharing, we have 2 main corridors that we're just focusing our attention right now. So the one from Isla Vista to City College, but also from Ventura County to South Coast Employment Centers. It's much more typical commuter market. There's actually 15,000 people that commute from Ventura County to the South Coast every day. So what we're really trying to do, our partner in this is Traffic Solutions. They're the county rideshare agency, and they do the online carpool matching. So that works really good for people with 9 to 5 schedules. Have your carpool partner that you have the same schedule with every day, but these days a lot of people have much more flexible schedules. Students have very flexible schedules, so it works a lot better to try to arrange these on demand or real-time ride sharing, where you just tap into that river of cars. I mean, think every hour there's dozens, if not hundreds, of cars going back between Isla Vista and City College, and being able to just figure out where those people are is what we can use this smartphone application and the technology for. So short answer is there's these 2 routes. If we're successful, then we'd consider expanding it to other routes as well.
It's about the rideshare too.
Mm-hmm.
Wait a minute. He has a question.
Actually, she had her hand up earlier. You're good? My question, Michael, was, is there any focus right now on rail transportation at all?
Yeah, so SBCAG, which is the Metropolitan Planning Organization, they're the mayors of all 8 cities in Santa Barbara County, and then the county, 5 county supervisors. They have SBCAG, which is a regional planning agency, a governmental agency, and they're working on commuter rail between Ventura and Santa Barbara. The main issues there are that Union Pacific, a private rail company, owns those rail lines, so they haven't been too excited to play with commuter rail. And there's some upgrading that needs to happen to those lines if you're going to get more trains going, as well as it could be expensive. So they're trying to figure all of that out. But there is an active plan in place right now where they're working on starting up a pilot for commuter rail.
I've heard there was a problem with accessibility of available cars.
Yeah, that's probably one of, you'd have to buy new cars. And I think the main thing is working with Union Pacific at a reasonable rate is kind of the main challenges so far.
Because in order for it to really be practical, it's got to be affordable.
Yeah.
And all of the programs that I've seen implemented in other regions, most notably around Los Angeles, the cost factors don't add up. It's not cost effective.
Yeah, so even if a pilot project gets underway, it's probably going to be fairly expensive, particularly compared to riding the bus or carpooling. So we don't know what the use would be, but you don't know until you try. So we'll see when that happens.
About the rideshare. So how is that going to work? I mean, if someone's driving from Isla Vista to Santa Barbara, and I don't know if you guys have figured this out yet. I mean, is there going to be some kind of incentive? People.
Yeah, and you can. So
why would that person want to pick up that person if they never need
yeah.
to ride?
So you can go to smartride.org. That's our website that we just launched, and it actually has some pictures of City College and people that you might know from student leadership last year. But basically the incentives are the person who's carpooling or who's driving. So normally maybe they drive alone and they drive by themselves in traffic here, and then they look for a parking space and can't find it, and they have to go down into the lots down by the harbor and spend 10 minutes looking around and get really frustrated and are late to class and have to walk up the hill. So if they get a carpool partner, they can go park in the carpool lots right here that are very convenient and easy, as well as they will get paid. So each time they pick up a carpooler, they get a small amount of money, like a couple dollars, for giving that ride. The person who's carpooling will have to pay some money to get the ride, but it'd be about the same price as riding the bus, as well as a lot faster than the bus. And the idea, so this all would happen through a smartphone or through an internet portal, but the idea is just that you're able to get a real-time ride share, and it augments the bus service.
And there's a fine.
Yes.
Go ahead.
All three of you briefly kind of addressed this, but I was wondering, through your experience, how relevant would you say is like what you learned in college to what you're doing today, and like maybe would you suggest kind of like, I guess it's like kind of case by case, whoever it is, but suggest like maybe a broader scale of classes in your college career, or like you were saying, you work with these people who are like very good at what they do, and it's a very specific thing, like an acoustic. Yeah. So I don't know. That's something I'm very curious about.
Okay, so the main gist of your question was a relevant experience in college. Personally, for me, it translated really well, and I don't think that's maybe typically the case, but because I studied the technical side of geography, the computer skills and the analysis and the mapping, I knew how to produce a map, that my portfolio of what I did at UCSB, making the maps of the classes that I took, was mostly what got me my first job in the county planning department as a GIS analyst. And then on the job, then I continued to learn as the technology went on. And I just wanted to go back to what I said, my last comment but didn't plug very well, is that I do believe that GIS will be used in every field, kind of like you can be an environmentalist in the many different fields. And here at City College, there's a fantastic program for practical GIS skills. So if you do have any interest in getting some of those skills, they look great on your resume with whatever you're focusing in on, your environmental career, or whatever it may be. It doesn't have to be even environmental. But having GIS skills, if you're interested in them, is another selling point for you.
Yeah, I'm debating whether I should take the GIS class they have here.
Yeah.
I took metrology, and in the end we did some mapping, and I thought it was really cool. So I'm curious to ask you if you get used to map all the time, and then what you see, if you see stuff you don't see. You know what I love
like
that
part. Yeah, no, I love. I just love that part of my job, getting to see and analyze the Earth and places I haven't been. Typically, projects I'm working on, I get so into them, I need to go actually see them. If there's something going on, and investigate the different angles that I've looked at in the computer and what's there. It's just very fascinating. Yeah, I'd encourage you to try that.
I want to hopefully answer your question. For me, it wasn't relevant, but what was really important was there are certain skills that you learn in school and on jobs that translate to things later in life, like how to learn, how to use software, how to speak to a professor, how to speak to a client, all those things. And so I think it's really important to take classes that you really love and are really interested in, and then you're going to learn skills in them that you'll be able to use later.
I have to agree with you. I sometimes think that in college you're not sure how things are going to be relevant, but you're sort of learning how to learn and how to think, and it's a time where you get to experience things from a learning and academic point of view. And just like I think everyone here said, learning by doing and learning on the job is just as important, but I think they kind of balance each other and work for each other. And I think all of you too have probably been surprised at things that, I didn't know I was going to. I know I've been surprised by classes I took and things I learned that I said, well, I'm never going to use this. And then, years later, it's like, that's why I took that class. So, be prepared to be surprised in your lifetime for things that you picked up at school. I think we're going to wrap it up, but I just can't resist doing a plug for, Michael mentioned volunteering for Earth Day, for example. And there's a study of recent college graduates, and one thing that they wish they had done more of while they were in school, and it was internships and volunteering. And we deal with a lot of people who come in here kind of at the end of their career, ready for a job, or end of their academic studies, ready for a job, and they don't have anything to put on your resume. Now, I'm not a big fan of just like do resume builders, but it feels good when you go, I did something in the environmental field. I volunteered at Earth Day, and I worked at a LED building station, So these are great opportunities, and I would really encourage you to avail yourselves of them, as well as just knowing these three individuals now. And I really, really thank you for sharing your time and wisdom with us, and we're just going to keep it.